thank you for the work, staff. Thank you, John. Right, moving on to item 13. Gloucester Street, completion of the trial period.
Happy to move this.
Oh, thank you. Councillor Scandrett. So, oh, sorry, just before you begin, this has been moved by Councillor Scandrett. Do we have a seconder for this? It's been moved by Councillor Scandrett. Is anyone prepared to second it? Councillor McClellan. Thank you. Right, thank you. Have you got an introduction here? Daisy?
Kia ora. Good morning. It's a happy morning. Sorry about that. A very quick introduction. This report just on Gloucester Street is, just to clarify, is a timing process discussion. There is a need for the Gloucester Street, the outcomes of the Gloucester Street trial to go through a hearings process. And given the workload that you currently have on, that can't happen until August. It's the fact that it's in the central city and the level of interest that it's incurred means we do need to do that hearing. So this is a question about what we do in the intervening period between the end of June and October, which is about 4 months. The report, I think, is the rest of it's in the report, and we should take it as read and hand to you for questions.
Thank you. The only clarification that I'd like is the cost to leave it in.
Oh.
And not who pays. I just want to know what the cost is to leave it in and what the cost is to take it out.
So the costs in the report, so in section 7 of the report, those are the costs between, the costs in section 7 on the table are the costs that relate to this report and the decision relating to this report. What we've tried to do in that report in section 7.4 is give you an understanding of what the risk profile is, depending on what the decision of the hearings panel would be, and therefore the council decision subsequent to that.
My question is though, if we leave it in,
Yes.
and before it gets to the hearings panel, is there any cost in between now and then?
That's all covered in that. That is what is covered in that table. So there is the cost between until the end of June.
Yes.
For the preferred option, and we've split the cost into the NZTA costs and the cost to council. So
Right.
if you take the preferred option, the cost to council is 34,000.
Right.
And if you choose to go with option 2, the cost is 52,000 to council.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Councillor Johansson?
Yeah, so we've had the feedback. So what was the sentiment of the feedback?
That is not. We need to be really clear today that this is not about the feedback. That will be all presented. That report hasn't been finished.
Okay, I guess the reason for
that. Sorry, through the chair. Yep. That hasn't been presented, and that will be presented at the hearing, and that's what the hearing will need to consider.
Right. I guess the reason for asking is that obviously the decision we're making today is whether we use NZTA money to remove it, or whether we use our own money if we make that decision later on. And so without knowing what the community think, how can we make a decision today about what option we may support in terms of the cost if we don't understand what not all the specific feedback, but the general sentiment is?
The decision today is whether to continue with the trial to the hearings panel or pull it out now. If you want to know those associated costs, they're in the table as we just determined.
No, I understand. It's clear. If we don't agree to pull it out today and we decide to pull it out later, it's going to cost us $215,000 that otherwise NZTA would pay for if we pulled it out today. All I'm asking for is, given that we've already done the consultation and we know what the feedback is, can we just be given a sentiment? If a lot of people are really unhappy with it, I'd rather save the money on the ratepayers and pull it out today.
Yeah, okay,
but if people are comfortable with it, I'd rather leave it in.
Just get some advice on where we are with the feedback, because we know it has to go through a hearings panel, so it's kind of a bit of a funny, not quite a catch-22, but something like that. But I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to respond to whether we could assess the feedback quickly today and make a decision, rather than proceed to a hearings panel.
I think it would be difficult to assess the feedback, but we do have Ron here, who may have more details to.
Yes,
you.
through the chair. My understanding that to date the monitoring and evaluation work hasn't been completed, so we can't make a decision or an informed decision until such time as that has been undertaken. We have obligations under the Local Government Act, Section 77, that we have to evaluate matters, make informed decisions based on the options that we're trying to achieve. At this stage, we can't do that until we have that information. So if we were to make a decision today, then it could well be classified as predetermination.
If we made the decision today to remove it, haven't we just breached all those principles because we haven't heard from the people?
We have heard from the people, but we haven't actually made an evaluation of what we've heard.
Okay.
And we have to do that to actually as part of the process.
Understood. But if we make the decision, which is one of the options in the report, is to remove it today, how could we make that decision if we haven't got the feedback?
If that's
from
an option in the report, I don't think we can actually make that decision today.
Right, so it shouldn't really be.
Yeah.
I'm not clear about this. So because there are two options in the report, to leave it in or to move it, but we don't have sufficient information to comply with Section 8, which is community impacts and views.
Yes.
So I wonder whether we are best leaving this report lying on the table or deferring it to a future meeting
Well,
when we do have the community views.
This is
no.
actually saying leave it in until the information has all been.
That's the recommendation.
Yes.
So what, I don't see the issue with it.
Because if we
You're the only one that wants to remove it. That's absolutely fine.
no, what I want to understand is the community views
Yeah.
before I make a financial decision, which is basically what we're doing today, of $215,000, right? So the choice today is if we want to remove it, we can get Waka Kotahi to pay for it if we do it within the time frame that we've agreed with them. But if we don't do it within the time frame, then the ratepayers pay for it.
But the thing is, actually, Councillor Johansson, that is actually not an option. And I think that to test the appetite here, we need to figure out if the support around the table is for the staff recommendation, we don't have an issue.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question?
So it's been moved and seconded, hasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
It's just a process question. As if there's an option in the paper that isn't capable of being considered, should the paper stand, or do we need? Look, maybe you come back after lunch.
Yeah, could we just, I think
Yeah.
we need to have a break
a legal
because
thing,
given the advice that Ron just
Hang on a
gave, it does make it confusion why this option's in the paper and whether we can make a decision.
Can I just check on something? Sorry.
No.
Can I just check though?
Okay, go ahead.
We've all got questions.
No, well, hang on. Sorry, Councillor Templeton. I think we will do
Do
as
this till after lunch.
I have a
the Chief
question.
Executive has suggested, and we'll get some legal advice on the paper because that's been raised.
Yeah, but
Okay.
if I could raise my question now, then that might be able to be answered after lunch, and it's easier for me to ask it than to type it right now. It's just that my read of this is that the feedback from the community that has been gathered during the trial so far is for a different decision to the decision that we're making today.
Yep.
So the decision that the feedback is on is for the long-term future, and the decision today is the short-term. And so I don't see how the feedback from the community on that one is relevant to the decision today.
Well, okay, but it still has to go
'Cause we're
through a hearings
receiving
panel.
the-
Thank you for that. So shall we break for lunch now and move to? Okay. So we'll lay this on the table till after lunch, and we'll progress through to item 14.